It's going to be a busy week. There were a lot of things I wanted to talk about and comment on this week, but I was very busy editing a big video for my other channel, Sarah's Things. So these are going to be a bit back to back rather than, waiting a few days apart like I would typically do for, a video. But right now I wanted to talk about this one first since, it's still fresh. I was browsing Twitter, which is how all of my terrible stories start. It's like this site is a big source of negativity or something. Anyway, my mutuals were all posting about audio and microphones, and specifically about the quality of USB mics. I personally do use a USB mic, and I've never really had an issue with it, but people were talking about how other mics are so vastly superior that you shouldn't even bother using a USB mic at all. So I wanted to see where this was coming from, and I thought it was kind of weird because when a lot of people are commenting on something and subtweeting it, it's usually because someone said something very stupid, and, I kind of live off of that. So I had to dig for a bit, but finally someone responded to the original tweet that this was all about, and I was able to find it. I don't think this is stupid. I don't think the person is stupid. I do think it's a bit misleading, though. And a site like Twitter that has a small character limit isn't the site to be discussing something as dynamic as audio. Now, before we start, I don't have an issue with Tessa, and I don't think they're dumb or doing this with bad intentions. So please don't harass people that you see in my videos. It makes us both look bad. But the issue I have is this person is a manager, and I personally find managers to be useless. They take a cut of your money and stuff like that for something that you can do entirely by yourself. And if you get a bad manager, they're going to take a big cut without getting you much more extra work than you would be able to do on your own. Managers are also really good at, entirely sucking your personality out of your content in order to make it as digestible to the biggest amount of people as possible. But if you're making content, you're making art, which means it needs to have your personality in it. So I think just having a manager is just a really, really bad idea. Not to mention, I find it a little weird that people are willing to take advice from someone who has no content creation experience whatsoever, and their entire, thing that they're known for is being paid for expensive advice. And they only have 1,000 followers. So I think if you can get a good manager, they're good. But good managers are few and far between because, everybody wants easy money now. I don't think manager is, a useful thing to have. I don't think a manager is a useful thing to have, but anyway. Tessa's used to giving info to a clientele that can afford their service, and people who are dropping money on hiring a manager are people who are into their career enough that they can afford these expenses. So the people that would benefit from expensive advice. The only thing on this list of services that they offer that you can't get for free is content reviews. And I've done those for free. I've done those for lunch. Just give me $25 and let me re-upload it as a video and let me have the ad revenue from that, and there you go. I'm sure Tessa's advice works great for their clients, but people who are looking for free advice are very new to this, and I don't think this is good advice to give to people who are just getting into streaming, as it lacks specifics and the full details a conversation like this requires. So Tessa's tweet starts with, if you are buying a microphone and are starting out with making content, please stop buying USB microphones, period, especially Yetis. I'm begging you, please give this a read. Yeti microphones are probably fine. I've never used a Yeti myself, but I do use a Snowball microphone, and it's still a USB microphone, and it's the model that's below the Yeti, so I imagine the Yeti would be better than the one I'm currently using. Yeah, other mics are better, especially the Elgato XLR. The Elgato one, it's a very good mic, but if you're just someone who is just getting into this streaming thing and content creation, you don't need to go buying an expensive microphone. They continue. There's a solid chance that most of you want to turn this into a career, so you're going to want to make an investment into the most important aspect of your career in business, audio. I agree to a point. If you're getting into this, you are either getting into it as a hobby, and if you're someone who's constantly looking up tips, wanting to improve your streams, chances are you're not doing this as a hobby, you're doing this as a business now. If you're going to do streaming as a business, you need to treat it seriously like a business, because this is work. And just streaming alone isn't going to cut it these days. You got to make content in addition to actually streaming. So yes, I agree with this aspect that if you're looking into streaming as a business, you need to take it seriously and treat it like a job, the job that it is. Tessa continues, again, I understand that most of you don't want to or can't break the bank, so that's why I highly advise you to just save up before starting. For VTubers, you can have a PNG and hit stream, but if you have bad audio, you will have low retention and you will need to grind more. Grinding, by the way, doesn't work. Straight up doesn't work. Grinding hasn't worked since 2013 when you could just go on and there were so few people out there streaming because consoles couldn't stream at the time and streaming was much less saturated. Back then it could work. You could just go on and grind and you would gain a following. Grinding hasn't worked in almost a decade. And that Tessa is offering this as advice, it's implying that grinding works, which is just more bad advice. Do not grind. And if I'm not a, reputable enough person to be getting this kind of information from, here's a bunch of other really big content creators that have all said this advice is really bad advice. So basically this whole tweet is about how USB microphones are bad because they're lower quality, and lower quality leads to people clicking off your stream or clicking off your YouTube. There's actually a lot of factors that play into this whole thing, and I feel like it's a lot more dynamic of an issue than, just a handful of tweets can throw out. Tessa is right to an extent, but I don't think the average person, or even someone who's just getting started in streaming as a job, needs to have this $200 microphone before they start. I think actually you might be doing yourself some harm by buying a $200 microphone right off the bat. Yes, bad audio will mean that people click off of your stream. Bad audio means people will stop watching your video. But bad audio is, in this instance, there's levels of bad audio-ness. And in the case that someone is clicking off your videos, bad audio means that your audio is so bad that it actually hurts their ears. Or that you've got a fan blaring in the background pointed towards your mic. Or you've got people arguing in the background and people can hear it. That's bad audio that makes people click off. Bad audio like that can easily be worked around because we live in, 2023. We live in current year where OBS, Audacity, Discord, all of these services have a really cool feature called noise suppression. Noise suppression, you set it and it will remove anything that is below that decibel amount that you set it to. If you raise it to negative 26 decibels, it'll remove the lowest 26 decibels of audio from it and then just leave the higher stuff. And then there's also noise gate. Noise gate is more specific to OBS. Noise gate kind of works like push to talk, but what you do is you set an open gate and you set a close gate. The open gate is how loud you need to speak before your microphone picks it up, and the close gate is how loud you need to speak before it cuts off. So if you are too loud, it'll cut off, and if you're too quiet, it'll cut off. So it's like an automatic push to talk. And just those two things alone can make a bad mic sound just like a decent mic. Now, the other thing is, yes, your microphone does factor into the quality of your audio. If you buy a standing mic, like a snowball, by itself, a snowball's pretty bad. But there are, like I said, the filters, of course, that you can make changes to the audio. But there's also hardware that you can get to help with it. I personally use a mic arm and pop filters. I have 2 pop filters and I have a mic arm. The mic arm and pop filter combo only cost me $10 on Amazon. So if you're spending $50 on a mic, you can spend the extra $10 to get the mic arm, because the problem that the Snowball has is because it's on your desk and it uses a stand on your desk. If you wiggle your desk at all, or you move your mouse around too much vigorously, that audio will get picked up by the microphone because of the rumbling. If you can hear some noise in the background, it's because of my gerbils. They're running on their wheel. I know, I'm selling my case so hard right now. By telling people to get a $200 mic off the bat, you're getting them caught into the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is that the more you spend on a hobby or job, the more likely you are to keep it way past it being enjoyable. If you spend $200 on a microphone, you're less likely to quit once you realize you don't enjoy this than you are someone who bought a cheap mic and realized they don't like this. If you're just starting out, you might not be entirely sure if you're into this or not. And honestly, you shouldn't be spending $200 total. The snowball that I've got, $50. The camera that I've got, $50. The capture card I've got, it was $150, but I've been doing this for a while, so I already knew that I wanted to keep doing this. Still, in total, I spent less than $300 on the setup that I use every single day, every single week, that I'm always making videos with, and it's perfectly fine. And you can hear that it's perfectly fine, because there's so many things that you can do, like pop filters, noise gates, noise suppression, and limiters. This video isn't a tutorial on how to do that, so if you want limiters and filters and stuff like that, I put a couple links in the description that you can use to learn how to apply those. Bad audio does bother people. There's one important thing here that is not being accounted for: compression. YouTube, Twitch, anything that's not a music site is going to have audio compression. And with audio compression, no matter how good your mic is, there's going to be, changes to your audio that make it sound like crap. What I record my audio in is 320 kbps. What YouTube actually has is 160 kbps. So you're not even hearing the best, you're not even hearing my audio at the best possible that it can be. And the other thing is that just because someone eats food doesn't mean that they're a professional chef. Doesn't mean that they have the taste of a sommelier. They're not able to, taste every little ingredient in it. Not everyone who is eating food is a super taster. And that's true with streams too. Not everyone who watches your streams, not everybody who listens to your podcast is going to have perfect pitch or anything like that, or is going to be an audiophile. Not everyone who watches content is an audiophile, and not everyone who eats food is Gordon Ramsay. So you don't need to hold yourself up to this impossible standard of having to spend thousands of dollars of equipment just to get started. That's unrealistic, and you're honestly shooting yourself in the foot, because the most important thing when you're starting content creation is to get your first video out, to get your first 10 videos out, to get your first 20 videos out, because the thing that separates you from everybody else that makes content is that you're posting it. A lot of people don't get that far. A lot of people don't make that first post. People keep delaying it. They keep putting it off. Or they go, oh, maybe I should create a backlog of videos so that I can release them as per schedule and be ready. And then they never post it. That's the most important part here, is not that you spent $200 on a microphone, because not everyone is going to be able to hear it well enough to understand that, yeah, this is a better microphone. If you do decide to follow Tessa's advice here, because I didn't exactly sell it, do it in the way that you go to Craigslist and look up microphones. And it's going to sound crazy. I know it's going to sound crazy because it's Craigslist, and everything sounds crazy on Craigslist. But so many people quit their podcasts and have these expensive microphones, and they just don't reach the success that they need to. And they sell those microphones. And they sell them for very cheap. For half off of what they usually sell for, because no one else is really buying these things except people who are, hobbyists or making content. So if you do buy a microphone, if you do listen to Tessa's advice and get a $200 microphone, I'd say go to Craigslist and search microphones and see if you can get something that is that same price but cheaper. People have a lot that they can put up with, and very bad audio is one of those things that people can't put up with. But chances are, if you're able to listen to your content and go, oh, I sound fine, then you probably sound fine. Although this did make me realize that maybe my audio could be a little bit better, so I did make some changes to this video to make my audio a little bit better. I did start using Audacity and recording my audio separately like I used to, rather than using OBS as my main audio recorder. So thanks for that, for reminding me that I can do that. And I think overall, unless you're someone who's already a professional or someone who's already making money for streaming, if you're not making money currently from streaming and YouTube, you do not need to buy an expensive mic like this. You do not need to be spending money until you are making money. What you have now is fine, unless it's a headset. You should still at least upgrade from a headset, because headset audio is pretty bad. But I know people like Simple Nick and Shrapnel Varger who both record their audio using their phones. and it sounds fine. And Nick has more subscribers than I do, and it sounds fine. I guarantee you, it's not that bad. So just use the filters. Some people did say that maybe Tessa was doing this as a way to make money because they did Amazon links. And I don't think Tessa did this with ill intent by any means. I just think that Tessa is perhaps a little too used to their clientele that can afford these kind of expenditures, because they're the kind of people that have the money and the professional mindset to pay $250 to hire someone to manage them. So I think, like I said, Tessa's advice works great for Tessa's clientele, but you are not Tessa's clientele. You are not that professionally mindset yet. And if you're at the point that you are in that professional mindset, you don't need someone to tell you what mic to use, because you already know what a good mic sounds like. So the main point of this was just to show that you can have good audio with a USB microphone. It's not going to be perfect, but it's not possible to get perfect because of compression. There's a lot of factors at play here, and, you know, a handful of tweets doesn't really sum up this issue or give any practical fixes. So I appreciate Tessa trying to give advice out here to people to help them grow their channel, and it is useful. Their information's useful most of the time, but I think some things like this, in this instance, I think it's pretty impractical. I think it's asking a little bit much, a little too early. All right, I'm going to stop here because I can probably go on forever. So thank you everybody for watching this. Especially if you like this stuff, maybe check out my other channel and sub to this one, because I'm going to be reposting stuff to this new channel from my other channels, a lot of which you probably haven't seen, and it'll be good stuff, especially if you like furry content. I promise it'll be really interesting stuff. But for now, I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.